Hey everyone, Chris and Jason here with the Private Lenders Podcast, as always sponsored by our lending company, hardmoneybankers.com, and our mastermind group for new and more experienced private and hard money lenders at hardmoneymastermind.com. Check it out, get a free account, see what you think. Okay, today we are talking about the different hats that a hard money lender has to wear. And I'll tell you what I mean. And first of all, don't be intimidated by it. It's nothing crazy. Don't let this put you out of the game. We all go through it. We just want to point this out. Um, okay, so when you first start out, and we'll talk about later on too, but when you first start out, you have to get competent in a number of different areas and probably areas you wouldn't expect. So you need to be an underwriter, right? You need to underwrite real estate loans. That one's kind of obvious. You need to also have competence as an investor and know what you're, especially in the residential, like fix and flip and rentals and that kind of stuff, know what your borrower client is thinking, planning, doing, be able to give them competent advice, stuff like that. And then other hats too that you might not think of, like you're going to become a marketer, you're going to become a finance guy, you're going to become um, competent in the legal aspects that apply to your business. Obviously, you don't have to be a lawyer, but you have to understand what's going on legally so that you can make business decisions around the law stuff. And accounting too. Nobody wants to be an accountant. At least most people who want to lend money don't want to be an accountant, but you have to understand that side of it too.
Yeah, and maybe we back up and start kind of from the beginning, from day one, getting a deal in all the way through to getting paid off on your portfolio. And one thing that we always talk about with some of our private consulting clients and some of our partners that operate some of our other offices is this is a really weird business in general when you're getting started. And the reason why is there's not many businesses in the world that people are just like all over you to try to buy your product. When I mean your product, get money from you, right? Like you don't just start a store and then thousands and thousands of people just rush into your store or raise their hand and say, I'm in.
And you have to turn most of them away.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes it's a little bit of, it's not that it's challenging, but like, it's one of those things that like, you might get like 100 calls or 100 leads and like none of them might be good, right? Like they might not be worthy enough. So just because people are jamming your phones up trying to get in touch with you and want money, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're qualified, right? So it's a little bit opposite. You have to be picky and choosy which ones are worthy and which ones make sense to lend money to. And we always say it like you have to wear two hats at any given time, right? And those two most important hats are you got to be an underwriter, right? You got to be an underwriter to make sure the deal's good, but you also got to be salesy at the same time so you can get deals. If you're kind of a dick on the phone and you act like, hey, I got the money, I make the rules, which some people do. I have the money, I make the rules. It's going to be hard to get really good clients and really good borrowers. But at the same time, if you're like, yeah, man, I'll help you out. Like, let's do this. We'll do this. We'll structure it like this. And if you're too kind of salesy and you're just lending money to everybody on a handshake, you're going to lose on the back. So like, you gotta understand both sides of it. You got to make sure you're protecting all your investors and your capital, but and only writing to good loans, but at the same time being outgoing and friendly and friendly is probably the best word, and figuring out the right way to generate the business. So kind of when you start at the beginning, right, you need to have your marketing hat on, right? You need to be out, you got to be out there and you got to be marketing. And I know a lot of people say, and listen, when we do this video, this is geared towards somebody who wants a full service scaled hard money lending business, right? If you have, whatever, $1 million of your own cash and you're just looking to lend it out responsibly, you might not have to go all in on some of these things we're talking about. But if you want to scale and do it the right way and have lots and lots of leads, like this is who we're referring to related to this. But like, you got to put yourself out there and show that you're the expert and have people reach out to you. So you got to be a marketer. You got to be a little bit salesy. You got to potentially go to the meetup groups. And we're not going into too much detail on this. It's just kind of what hats in this video, at least what kind of hats you have. And think about originating loans. Like you have to be a salesperson and you got to be marketing and you got to get deals in the front door to start with.
Absolutely. And I think that we both took to that marketing part pretty well, because coming from other real estate and mortgage lending backgrounds, like we were already we already had that mindset that like we're gonna have to figure out ways to get leads in the door. We were already doing that. But then other stuff popped up that we might not have 100% expected. Like for example, did you anticipate that you're going to become a tech guy in starting a lending company?
No, didn't know anything about tech, but
exactly. But we did it, and we didn't have much budget, so you learned it.
Yeah, that's right. And like I'm not saying like you need to learn HTML or how to like change up a domain name and websites and graphics and things like that. But we started out and we had no budget. We didn't really want to put a lot of our own money into this, and we're like, hey, someone's got to do it. So we kind of just divvied up tasks of like, cool, I'll do this, you do this, and vice versa, because that's just startup time. And I recognize that, you know, it might make sense to pay somebody to do some of those things, but a lot of the things in startup time, we didn't know what worked and what didn't work. So didn't know how to pay somebody for a specific task. Just because we didn't even know what we needed. So a lot of this we learned, we kind of, you know, we're in the trenches and learned it ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. And same as with accounting for me. I didn't anticipate being an accountant, and for the first couple years of our company, doing every keystroke related to QuickBooks and spreadsheets and monitoring the loans we had outstanding, stuff like that. But I dove in and I learned it. You know, like our old CPA in his office basically taught me QuickBooks. Here's how we're going to set this up. Here are the transactions you need to do. And I just got used to it. You know, I knew that I wasn't going to be doing that forever, but that was the deal for then. And now it's a benefit, because even though I passed that off as soon as I could, as soon as we had the revenue and the budget to do so, I can still manage those departments as, you know, like the CFO. I don't call myself CFO, but that's probably like the best description for my end of the business of managing investor capital and accounting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And now I can manage those people who we hire and train and put in place competently because I've done the keystrokes myself.
I think, I think that's a good point. And I remember when we do some private consulting 1 or 2 times a month with some other hard money lenders all over the country. And sometimes we tell them that, and I see the look on their face, and they're like, I don't want to be doing that. Like I wanted to get into this business as, you know, to just deploy money responsibly and passively and make money without doing some of that stuff. And I don't disagree. Like if we were starting Hard Money Bankers today with the resources that we have today and the capital we have today and things like that, it would be different. We'd be throwing capital at it. But I will tell you that it did help us, because if we have turnover in different departments, or if one of us needs to step into a part of our business, both of us are very competent at all aspects of the business, right? We could switch roles today. We could potentially sub in for somebody else. And it gives us the ability to do that because we learned it firsthand. And it wasn't only budget of why we learned it firsthand. It was also because, you know, there's no manual or training wheels for this business at all. You know, it's a very unique business. And I know we do whatever we can to help other hard money lenders and private lenders, you know, help them so they don't have to struggle with some of the stuff that we've done, because we've learned it and we've implemented, we've done it 1,000 times, but we didn't know that back then. So you know, even if we had a conversation with our CPA, it was like, hey, can you help us with accounting stuff? He didn't fully, you know, he understood how to do books, obviously, but it might not have been, it was like, okay, when you service a loan, an example, like if you're servicing a loan, okay, well, when do you want monthly payments to come in? When do you want to send your monthly payments out to your investors? You know, what do you want to do here? What do you want to do here? So like we molded it, and, you know, we know it and we do it the way that we see fit. But, you know, we kind of had to learn that on the fly.
100%. And the same with legal stuff too. Like we didn't know that going in, but we needed to understand the laws that are applicable to our business, whether it has to do with like loan docs or licensing or default related stuff and foreclosures and judgment. Like you just learn it on the fly, and then it becomes very beneficial because that translates directly into proper decision making as a lender, right? And that's going to save you from possibly losing money in certain situations, and also making more but not getting greedy and getting in trouble. Like having a good grasp on the legal side of stuff has been you know, it could go either way, is what I'm trying to say. Like if you don't have a grasp on it, it could turn into a problem, and if you do, it can turn into additional revenue.
Yeah, and I've got a good example on that you're never going to learn unless it's real time or talking to us or somebody who's experienced this, because there's the difference between like doing something legally and wanting, doing a loan legally, the right legal wise, and doing it the right way as a business owner. And the same with tax stuff and everything else, right? Like, I'll give you an example. So you could do a loan to, let's just say, an unqualified borrower, someone who's probably not going to execute. They might not have great character, they might not execute, and you give them $100,000 loan on a $400,000 asset, right? Legal. I'll give you two examples. Legally, whatever, you can do the deal. It works, but like, knowing what we know now, like if they're unqualified, they might not execute. It might be a headache. As a business owner, we might decide maybe that's not the best way to do it. And I'll give you another example, because that wasn't actually the best example. But like, if you talk to an attorney, and let's say someone has, let me think of a good example. Someone has a property, free and clear. It's owned in an LLC. There's a borderline if they live in the property, they don't live in the property. You have a feeling that they live in the property. They're telling you they don't live in the property because they want to get the loan through, right? Give you an example like that. And you talk to an attorney, they say, well, technically they're signing your commercial affidavit. They're lying on your documents stating that they don't live in that property, and that the proceeds are for commercial purposes and things like that. So like, by the law, you might be writing the loan correctly, but at the same time, going through this, it might be a headache, right? Chances are the person might be lying to you. They might be living in the property. They might claim that it was an owner-occupied loan, and these are things that come up, on a monthly basis. And you got to make a business decision if it's worth the headache to kind of go down that route.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of examples we can go through, but like, the fact remains, you don't necessarily anticipate having to wear all these hats, but you'll get there, like on down the line, starting with marketer, and then your sales guy, and then your underwriting, and then you're figuring out the back end, like accounting and legal and other stuff, and then you're hiring people. Oh, and then you're an HR guy too, and then you're a manager, and then like,
and then you might be an owner of real estate too if you got to foreclose on something. And like, let's not forget, like, a lot of that's front end stuff with the borrower. Keep in mind, you're also running somewhat of a fund with your capital investors, even though it's not set up as a fund. Like, you're doing investor relations, you got to work with your capital investors. There's a lot of different things. So I would say the best way to sum this up is, again, be involved in all aspects of the business. I really believe that. And I still believe that even if you're a one man or woman operation, like, understand the business before you start hiring and offsetting it. I know it's easy to just throw money at things, and other business ventures that Chris and I have been involved in since Hard Money Bankers, we just throw money at things for ease of use. But if you're going to take it seriously and you want to grow with it, like, set it up based on your lifestyle and your goals and the way you want to set it up, of how you see it grow. And, if you got to get down and dirty for a short period of time to learn something the hard way, even if you believe you're overqualified for it, do it, because the long term will make it easier, more profitable, and just less headaches. And that's, I think, what we all want to do.
Absolutely. Hope this information was a benefit to you. For more, please check out hardmoneymastermind.com. You can make yourself a free account, introduce yourself, see what people are chatting about, check out a lot of the other content, and we hope to see you here next time in the Private Lenders Podcast. Thanks.